Started. Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to the second to last Mike Lead Aspire session for the year. I'm Mary Cheney. We have a wonderful guest with us today. Donald is one, and I changed your name, by the way. I put it in there. I
Thank
hacked
you.
in and changed your name from Wisdom Work. But no, honestly, Donald is one of our trainers in our Mike Lead program, teaches in both the communicators and builders sessions. And we were bringing folks on. We've been bringing folks on all year. They're friendly to Mike, people part of the Mike community, just to talk through and give advice and counsel for our aspirers. And so thank you for joining us live. If you are out there on our YouTube channel, you can put your questions in our chat in either here live or on our YouTube channel. If you're out there on our YouTube channel, please like and subscribe to our channel, and so we can continue to have our followers and change our followers into subscribers and try to get some passive income in for minorities in cybersecurity. But all that to be said, I just want to say thank you so much, Donald. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and we'll dive into questions thereafter. So I'll turn it over to you for now.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me here to this conversation that we're having. I was looking forward to it. Um, so yeah, my name is Donald Gerard. I'm a life coach. I call myself a wisdom work coach because my coaching practice is grounded in three things really. It's grounded in mindfulness. Um, it's grounded in the concept of self-mastery, and it's grounded in what I call wisdom work, which is basically aligning your life with your purpose. Um, so that's what I do now. I've been doing that for about 20 years or so, uh, perhaps a little bit longer. But before that, I had an interesting career in tech. And I just, just because we're in a tech platform, I think that's important. I had a really long career in tech. I started off just doing data entry. And when I left uh, tech, if one ever does really leave it, I don't know if I do, but when I actually started becoming a life coach, working as a life coach full time, um, I was I had just left a startup that was doing um, marketing analytics, and my job was I was customer support and basically tech support for the company, so internal tech support. Um, so
Absolutely.
uh,
Keep going. So tech background, tech support. No, the first question that I always ask everyone is tell us your origin story. So you got into a little bit about it, but of course, everyone has, and it's not a prerequisite that you actually be in tech. But I
mhm.
love our trainers and I love their backgrounds, and to just bring that proper perspective to our aspirers, which are those that are interested into transitioning into the cybersecurity space. So the various backgrounds of individuals from and that journey throughout their career, I feel is important. So yeah, tech support, okay, startup, okay. You didn't tell them you were over there on the West Coast. Come on, come on. Do I have to draw all of this out of you? Come on, buddy.
Yeah, actually, you might have to. So I can tell you that I actually started my career. My interest in tech was back in the 70s, really. And I was a kid. I was in elementary school, and I started high school in the 70s, and um, started programming in BASIC in high school. And also, my parents bought a little Radio Shack computer. So we had a little computer at home. Probably had about, you know, it didn't have too much RAM. Um,
But I'm just trying to is Radio Shack gone? I remember
mhm,
Radio Shack, right? But
mhm.
I don't think these folks remember Radio. I mean, you could go to Radio Shack and pretty much get anything. And it's a store that left, and I'm mad that it left because it was an important part for those techies that like to go through and tinker with stuff, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It was an electronics parts store mostly. They also sold, uh, things that you could build with electronic parts, like computers and calculators and things like that. But it was primarily electronics parts store. A lot of people who were interested in electronics, and I happened to be interested in electronics, spent a lot of time at Radio Shack. Actually, and I think they might be making a comeback. Um,
Okay, good, because I did too. I spent a lot of time there as well. I missed them.
yeah. And so I started actually with tech. I started programming in high school, and in college I studied engineering. But there was a moment when I thought maybe I should study computer science, and I took a bunch of computer science classes. I think I took COBOL. I took some language classes like COBOL and Fortran and Pascal. Some people may remember those. I
I do. I got you down. I remember.
Yeah, back in the day when you had to submit your work on cards that they would feed it to the computer, and you have to wait, hours before you got just to see if your program ran or you had a mistake. But that's where I really got my start. While I was in college, I also started doing some data entry for a company in the Central Coast in California, and then moved back to Los Angeles, which is where I'm from, and started working there in data centers, essentially. That's what they were in the financial institutions. And I did that type of job. Computer operator, night shift computer operator at the first one. The second one I moved to, I was a daytime computer operator in charge of I was a data. I can't remember the name of the title, but I was in charge of the whole computer operations for the financial institution as a computer operator. It was a small institution. Moved up to Silicon Valley after that to work at a larger credit union in a higher position, and then ended up working at Stanford Federal Credit Union back in the late 80s, no, back in the mid 90s.
Mhm.
And that's where financial institutions were starting to do um, financial transactions over the internet. The internet was picking up, and people had email, and they were starting to do financial transactions. Companies were starting to have websites. And I imagine, cybersecurity was probably big before that, but that uh, became, I'm sure, a really big interest. I know it was at my financial institution. We were worried about being hacked, um, big time. And so I did that. I left Stanford. I was a webmaster for a while um, at another business at SRI Consulting, again in the Silicon Valley, Silicon Valley. Um, and did that for a minute, and then started my own web design company with a friend. Uh, and then that ended, and I went to grad school because I was tired of the corporate world, and decided to study holistic health education and consciousness and psychology and stuff like that. And now I'm a life coach.
There
Um,
you go.
yeah.
And oh, okay. So that a lot of questions for me that came out of that, but day-to-day responsibilities as a computer operator, what did that look like?
Yeah, that was really interesting. When I first started, it was basically at that time, there was in the company, there was one big computer that was in the computer room, and everyone else, no one else had a computer. They just had a computer terminal on their desk that was plugged into the room. So people could run programs from their terminals, but it was usually there was an interface, and so they could basically press a button on the terminal. My job as a computer operator was to run the batch programs because they were financial institutions. They were essentially programs that updated people's account from ATM transactions or if there was whatever the tellers were doing. And so, yeah, I would come in the afternoon and I would run some programs and then after the all the branches closed, I would do basically computer operations, which is I would back up all of the hard drives, and at that time hard drives were um, huge. They were huge and they couldn't so each hard drive fit into what looked like a washing machine, and
Oh
so it have
wow.
a but I in the computer room was basically a row of what looked like washing machines, probably about eight or
Mhm,
nine of them.
mhm, mhm.
And we had to pull out the disk packs and put new ones in, and then uh, deliver the ones we just pulled out to a different building on the campus. Yeah, there was a lot of
And that's
manual
those are
labor.
good old days, man. Batch
The good old
processing. Batch
days.
processing means they ran it
Yeah,
all at one time. So they collected all
yeah,
the data, and then at the night, or what Donald's talking about, they would just have to run the program to update the system. This is pre-internet, right? So yeah, that's fun stuff. That's fun stuff.
exactly. Yeah, nothing really happened in real time, except maybe if you were at the teller, then maybe your account
Mhm.
was updated in real time. But if you're using an ATM or you're doing something else, yeah, that's a batch process.
Yeah.
Credit card transactions are batch processes. Yeah.
Yeah. I think people need to understand the history of this stuff because you were doing backups, you were doing cybersecurity, backup and recovery, business continuity plans, all that. That all of that is part of the tangential responsibilities of a cybersecurity professional. And of course,
Hmm.
we're talking to individuals that are looking for ways to get into the cybersecurity profession. And I was actually at a high school event on Wednesday and talking to high schoolers and their, career fair, and we were talking about what it means to be in cybersecurity. And we unfortunately still have this mistaken belief that you have to be a coder or you have to be in certain technical aspects of things, not necessarily understanding. And many of the things that you were talking about, you weren't coding when you were doing, I mean, you were running the program and batch processing, but many of the items that you were doing in regards to, especially the backup stuff, that's tangential, and that role still exists today, which is people don't do it well. They still don't do backups well, which is why ransomware is such a thing, because data backups are not being performed on a regular basis. But we we could talk tech anytime. I want to transition right into to holistic because it's meaningful, and the reason why I added health and wellness to the Mike Lead programs themselves, the builders and communicators programs themselves. It's because as we go through this life and we go through our careers, we have to, focus on the resiliency, and sometimes that the health and wellness aspects of things are very, very important to us staying on track from a business perspective. And I may need some help. Maybe this would be a test for me because I'm having some struggles right now. But in any event, why health and holistic health and wellness coaching, Donald? Why did you decide to pivot into that area? What drove you?
I think, well, I think on one level, that's probably always been my purpose. I was all through school, all through my whole life, I've always been the person that people came to. Um, not because I always had good advice, but I actually just because I listened. I listened to people talk. And so, and a good part of what I do now is listening to what people have to
Mhm,
say. Um, so I think maybe, on one level, that was my destiny. But I think also just being in corporate America, for the length of time I saw how toxic it could get, um, for everyone, but especially for folks of color. I saw it. I saw the just the toxicity. Um, you know, people being asked to, you know, do things that they weren't contracted to do. And it was just not a healthy environment. The division between management and staff, um, having, been engaged on all levels, I could just see how how detrimental it could be to a person's uh, health, physical, emotional, and mental health, in that type of environment. And so I think when I started grad school, I was just studying health in general, holistic health. But the more I got into it, I realized that um, it's all connected.
mhm,
Uh, and mental health is just it's health and wellness in general, but it's all connected, and it's just something that um, I think that especially in tech, people don't really necessarily think about.
mhm,
It's a lot of times for me, it was just about getting the job done, period. You
mhm,
know,
mhm,
yeah, I had to get the job done. It's a financial institution. We had to open the doors. So I had to stay all night. I'm not, my own personal health and wellness was not really a priority. Um, and I can see how that could happen a lot
mhm,
in,
mhm.
in tech, especially in cybersecurity.
But I mean, we're human, right? And we are not immune to what's going on in and around us. And maybe this is a fortuitous time for you to be on this call and having this conversation because we just left a very, and for me personally, disappointing election result this week. And I don't think people understand policy changes and their impact on the a organization like minorities in cybersecurity, right? And ultimately attacks on fair representation, not only from a race perspective, but from a sex perspective, sexual orientation perspective. So we're not immune to these things that are going on around us. I think a lot of times we don't necessarily chat about them. And as someone that my daughter was very, very upset, and it's taken me through a lot of different things. And one of the things that I told her today, I said, you have to validate your emotions, right? A lot of times minorities, especially Black women especially, we hold on and we just power through without really dealing with the disappointment of what's going on around us. So as we all are in the work environment and having to carry on when, in my own humble opinion, we are moving backwards in regards to rights, in regards to representation. What would be your advice and counsel to those that are just a little anxious about what's to come?
Well, there's a couple of things I would say. I think probably the most important thing is to stay grounded, in your own truth and in your own um, purpose. Um, I think by staying grounded in yourself, it helps. Um, I mean, we definitely need to. I think that we definitely need to, if we're having, emotions around the outcome of the election, and a lot of people absolutely are having all kinds of emotions. It's definitely, I think it's important to feel those emotions and to process what's happening for yourself. Um, and also, I'm trying to remember my original point. I think I was going to say, um, yeah, stay connected to yourself and your purpose, because we can, there's a lot of different ways to look at um what's happening now.
Mhm.
And we, like I said, we definitely need to process our emotions, but also if we stay grounded and connected to what our truth is, we can also see that, well, perhaps there's going to be some opportunities here too, especially in, uh, I mean, education,
Mhm.
how we take this experience that we're all having, and how can we take this and turn this situation around. But I think that happens for people who are ground whose lives perhaps are grounded in their own truth and what's important to them and their own purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's more so like, and when I talk to people about the macro level, the macro,
Mhm.
because see, I subscribe to Maya Angelou's belief that when someone shows you who they are, you believe them. So I can only assume that everything this individual say that they want to get accomplished, they're going to move towards these policy decisions, right? And so when it comes, it's already been a struggle, a hard toe for
Mhm.
minorities to, even though there are 400, 500,000 jobs out there in the United States, for us to crack that nut, right? And to be able to transfer or to take the transferable skills and the talents that we have into the space. And so, you know, I don't think, the broader implications of policy decisions that may, you know, punish, again, taking it for what they say they are,
Mhm.
corporations or individual corporations that have these programs, right? And so it becomes a, now what? Now do we do? I can be, stay grounded in my purpose, but if corporations are now pulling back, right, their efforts to now, you can talk about the bottom line, and the numbers are out there in regards to the importance of having diverse voices in your corporation to make to make the, necessary changes and everything like that. But where we are now, I can't, again, it's going to be a setback or a step back from what we've been, the momentum that we've been building on for many, 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 many years now. And so I find it difficult, to answer the question when someone says to me, Miss Mary, why is it like this? Why are organizations not looking at this particular talent pool, as a to solve some of their challenges? And then the question comes, if they now look at this talent pool, will we now have organizations being sued? Because of course it becomes a legal risk for them at that particular point. If we're moving to a place where we're going to sue organizations that have these initiatives, it becomes a legal risk for the corporations and things like that. So we're helping Miss Mary out today, everybody, as we talk about, staying the course from a mental health perspective, but then talking about those that are already in the workplace, right? And those that
Mhm.
are in corporate America and right now, and what does this mean for them as they now have to deal with their emotions and disappointment, but still have to, like you said, when you were at at the job, you still got to get the job done. So, what advice or counsel for those that are in the workforce that are dealing with, I mean, the last, we've as minorities, especially Black Americans, have had to deal with a lot of different things, right?
Mhm.
And before our own eyes. So, give advice and counsel. What advice would you give to someone who just maybe not even want to talk to people right now?
Um, so number one is take care of yourself, and let's take care of yourself, whatever that looks like for you. Um, and it may mean not having conversations with people who can't, you know, who aren't skilled in the art of conversation, and can't, and maybe who aren't going through, and this is sort of generally speaking, who aren't going through what you're going through and can't necessarily connect. But there are people out there who can. And so take care of yourself, talk to people uh, who can listen. Because one thing I learned very recently actually is that um, it's about depression. It's like when someone is depressed, what's not happening, and what's not happening is they're not expressing themselves. They're holding something in, or they're holding something down. And a lot of people I know who have experienced depression, including myself, um, um, that's part of the problem. That's why it lingers so much, because a lot of people keep it in. They don't really talk about it. They don't talk about how they're feeling, and they don't talk about the fact that they're not feeling okay. And a lot of times we don't have the space to do that. And so but my recommendation would be, like, focus on your own healing, and find someone to talk to, um,
Mhm.
because uh, most of us really aren't something needs to happen. Something needs to move um,
Mhm.
inside of us. And so, and that usually talking to someone can get that going, that healing process started, basically. Um,
So, okay, tips and tricks, right? Okay,
mhm.
so again, we're dealing with, aspirers, folks that want to be in a profession. Many of them have tried and tried and tried, rejection after rejection after rejection, have done all the things, have gotten all the degrees, gotten all of the certifications, and they're still hit with no, 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 no. How would you advise them to remain resilient? Um, when they keep getting, doors seem to keep shutting on them.
Resilient, are you talking about in the job search?
Yes, 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 yes,
Yeah,
specifically the
yeah.
job search.
Yeah, that's a really hard one, because of the nature of the business. Um, but I think, and I'm trying to remember actually, like, what I used to do. I networked a lot, um,
Mhm.
and I my perfect job, or the job that I wanted, wasn't always necessarily available, but there's always something available that I could do that may be peripherally connected to the career that I wanted to be in, or the field that I wanted to be in. Um, I think staying networked um,
Mhm.
is probably one of the best things someone can do who is having a challenge um, finding the type of work that they want, the type of employment that they want. But definitely staying networked, and like, nationally or internationally even, because the world we live in today, especially when if you're working with cybersecurity, you could be anywhere, A, and B, it's needed everywhere. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
um,
Yeah, and I think I anticipated the question because it's the same question in the chat um, that I just asked you in regards to how to stay motivated when you keep getting rejection after rejection after rejection. And networking is key, and I think I would add to that to do something different, right? If you are behind the computer screen and you're applying for hundreds of jobs a day without getting out of the house, and as Donald pointed out, rightfully so, going to different events, going to different local events that may not, cost you a lot of money. I think one of the things we have done in this country specifically is that we spend too much time behind screens and not enough time getting to know the people that are around us. Now, Mike Talent and Mike did a survey in the month of October. Those results, was it September? The results came out in October. I think we did the survey in September where we surveyed a lot of hiring managers. And one of the things that struck out to me, one of the bigger things was, how many of them are still basically will take a referral over someone applying out of to their job opportunity online. And so if it's a referral, that's where the networking comes in. If you're an unknown entity, if you are know someone that doesn't have any experience, but you're not in the room with and getting to know these individuals, that challenge is there. So Donald is correct when he says, get out there and get to different events, attend certain things so people can get to know you. Also, we talked through in the builders program about building your brand, all right, even if it's just on social media and on LinkedIn and things like that. But you have to, if you're doing the same thing, which is just applying, rejecting, you have to shake that loose by doing something different. And it's still relationships and relationship building that will get you there, I think. So, I like to ask this question, as it relates to your own personal journey. What is the most useful tool in your arsenal, when you were in corporate spaces, right? What advice would you give? What thing that you would say you need to lean in on how to do this particular thing if you're going to remain successful. I know it's been a while since you've been in the corporate spaces, but you can go back in your mind and think about some of the tools in your arsenal from then.
oh, let's see. I think one of the most important things that I did um, when I was in tech was I learned the business. I learned more than just the technology. Like I had to be an expert at the technology, but I also learned the business. And so learning the business helped me um, really helped me talk to like C-level executives. Um,
Mhm.
when I was, I can tell a story. So I left, where did I leave? So I was managing I was manager of information delivery systems at Stanford University Federal Credit Union. Uh, and I left that job to become a webmaster for a consulting firm. The consulting firm happened to be the old Stanford Research Institute, SRI, on the same campus as SRI. It was SRI Consulting, basically. And so it was made up of and I'll make this story short. It was made up of basically they took a bunch of different businesses and put them all together and called them a consulting firm. So there was like
Okay.
20 vice presidents, Uh, and then, the CHRO, CFO, and the CEO. And I reported to some guy who was in Boston. I was in California, I reported to manager in Boston. So while I was here, and I most of the time I was talking to the CFO, and it really helped me in getting everything I needed done, and navigating all of these 22 egos of all these vice presidents, just being able to understand and talk their business with them. Um, it made my job completely easier, and actually I got a lot of respect. Um, it helped when I went to the CEO and asked for a raise. I asked for like, you know, $20,000 raise, bump in my salary. But I made the case because I understood the business. And he was like, oh, yeah, okay. It was like not even difficult. Um, but I think like just learn the business, not don't just learn the tech, but learn the business. And I think that'll help considerably if you plan to advance and be on the C level at some point,
Okay. So,
or own
same,
your own business.
you know, same question, but on the health and wellness side,
Mhm.
what what's a tool that you advise your clients to have that they have to have as they now are trying to climb the corporate ladder? What is it that you say that they should focus in on, or a particular tool, or a particular something that they should also do for themselves as they go down that journey?
I highly advocate for mindfulness practice. Um, Mindfulness practice, it's like meditation, but on steroids. It can be at some point. It's not simply about meditation, but it's really about being able to activate within yourself your relaxation response, which is the antidote to the stress response. And the thing about working any job, I imagine in any field, but especially if you're in cybersecurity, stress levels pretty high. And so the better we can self-regulate, I think a better person can self-regulate, um, especially with stress. I think the better they'll be able to perform. But also, um, it's not simply about not being stressed out, but it's it's um, mindfulness practice is really sort of uh, the gateway to self mastery. Like if you're practicing mindfulness, you're learning how to manage yourself in any environment. And and then you're learning how to be emotionally resilient. There's all these things that you're also learning, um, not just how to relax. And so, those are all the things I think a successful, a person who wants to be successful in anything they do, that's a really important
Mhm.
thing to know how to do.
Yeah. 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 Questions, please. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. You can definitely put them. I am monitoring both. I'm monitoring the YouTube channel as well. We don't have any questions, so Miss Mary will continue to ask questions because that's what I do.
Mhm.
So you came out of tech because you retired of corporate America and went into your own company. And we've talked to several entrepreneurs this year, and the decision to be an entrepreneur is not something that is taken lightly. So, how did you decide to make that jump, and what did that look like for you when you finally decided to let corporate go and do go back 20 years in your brain, because you were probably doing some coaching while you were still working in corporate America, and then you decided to, if that's fair, I don't know. You tell me, and you decided, blanket, I'm done. So what brought that to you? Like you said, this was always your calling, but it's not for the faint of heart, entrepreneurship.
I think my ignorance about being an entrepreneur is what kept me going. Um, and it's because it's being an entrepreneur is really hard. Running your own business is really hard, even if it's a small business like mine. All of both of my small businesses, all of them actually, are all of my businesses are small, but it takes just so much time and so much energy um, out of running one's own business. I mean, that's usually the key. One of the benefits of working in corporate America. Not only do you have like somebody else's money to spend, but you know, but you can go home, you can leave if you need to. And so, but yeah, when I started, I think not knowing how hard it was probably helped. Um, and then learning, going through all the different sort of learning phases that I had to go through. Um, um, but I think my passion for what I was doing, you know, if I that's what kept me going. If I didn't have that, I would have stopped a long time ago. Um, but it's just a feeling to have. I mean, the thing about it was I think I was, as a manager, I was coaching my staff.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm,
and I actually have a couple of guys who were they were college students when we met. When I got the job at Stanford, they were college students, and I saw their potential. And I said, "This is what you need to do. This is where." And then I actually told one of them, like, "You need to leave here now. You need to go get a job doing something." These guys are much wealthier than I am right now. These guys, they were able to turn whatever we learned, whatever they learned with me under my management, and create careers that are just
mhm,
like amazing. Um,
mhm.
so I don't know what my
That's
point
wonderful.
was, but I think it was because they learned the business side. They
Mhm,
weren't just techies. They were really
mhm,
smart techies, but they
mhm.
actually learned the business side, and I think that's what helped their
Yeah.
careers significantly.
Mhm. Well, you said your mentorship as well, right? You were mentoring them and you were coaching them up as you were in corporate America, and that's what managers, well, that's what great managers do. They want their employees to obtain success, right, over and above
Hmm.
what it is that they're doing, and so that's part of the DNA, I believe, of a good leader, is to being able to not only motivate others, but spot potential and pour into them. So we do have a question. This is, what tips you can give to learn how to manage time when we have a lot of things going on, to get better with time management? That's a time management question. Hmm. You have some
Okay.
tips?
Well, the only tip I have is you got to use a time management tool. So if you're not already using a time management tool, use that. Um, Something as simple as a Google Calendar. Um, but if you have a lot of different projects, a lot of different things happening in your life, there are actually more sophisticated time management tools and project management tools. Trying to get my brothers to use those, and it's like pulling teeth, but they actually really help. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah. Um,
I would advise getting rid of. unnecessary distractions as well. I think that we have to be honest with ourselves, given the amount of time we have in a day, of what we're doing, right? And is it productive? Is it something that will continue to be productive? And if it's not, then it needs to go. Because individuals will tell me all the time, well, I don't have time, I have this, I have this. But if you spend more than 5 minutes on social media, you have time, right? And so it's just a priority thing, and prioritizing those things that are important. I mean, I have a bunch of calendars and an assistant and still find that time at times to work out 2 hours a day. So it's just a matter of priority, right? On what it is that we are so conditioned in this country right now to have ADHD, and it's this way is this way, this way is this way. And it sometimes claiming your time back is a form of self-care. In actuality. So in my thing, I learned this in law school, right? How to manage my time, because law school, we were reading what 400 pages a night, to be prepared for the next day. And so you couldn't fake it right when the questions came. And so I think that I was conditioned, in law school, that getting rid of distraction. So I think I'm pretty good with time management, and the ability to focus. So as Donald pointed out, of course, time management tools, but setting up a priority. You know what's important based on, look at your day tomorrow, start your day tomorrow, and say, just start to figure out what you're doing during your day. Now, if you have children, the weekends are usually for them. But again, it's just being able to see where you are spending the time and where you can capture some of that time back, because that is part of, like you said, self-care, in that regard. So for you, Donald, and I'm assuming you have various types of individuals that are coaching clients and things like that. Are there any consistent themes that you get with your clients that you could want to share as a red flag, so to speak, for an individual who may need additional or pay more attention to their mindfulness practice? Are there themes that you have, that, you have 5 clients and they're all coming to me about A, or something like that, that can give the audience here an idea of, hey, maybe things are getting a little bit out of whack?
So, I think you're asking me, um, are you
Warning
asking?
signs.
Okay, so things to look for that let you know that um, it's time to get some help,
Yes.
perhaps. Uh,
Yes.
okay. Um, well, if you're not getting stuff done, if you're not getting stuff done, then yeah, I'm trying to think, because I don't necessarily think about it in that respect.
Mhm.
When people come to me, they usually um, when people come to me, they usually have a goal, and they can't understand why they're not making progress. So we have to look at certain areas when that's not happening. One thing I look at is, and you've actually seen this process happen, but I look, we look at what, where are you? What's your environment like? Is your
Mhm.
environment conducive to accomplishing what you want to accomplish, or do you have distractions? You know,
Mhm.
is that where the problem is? Who are the people around you? Is it, that's part of your environment? Um, do we The next thing to look at is, how are you using your time? Okay. Are you using your time that uh, proactively getting you towards your goals, or are you wasting time? Um, Another thing to look at is, well, why are you doing what you're doing anyway? Like, is this important to you? You talked about setting priorities. Is this a priority for you? If so, are you treating it like a priority? Priorities in my world, we call values. What's important to you, values. Um, is any of what's happening that's keeping you from doing what you need to do, is there a is it is it violating like a belief that you have, which is another area. So beliefs and values. Values are what's important to you. Beliefs are why those things are important to you. Um, and ultimately, purpose. We talk about purpose. Purpose is why one would be doing anything beyond what it does for them. Purpose is it's more about legacy. It's more about uh, for more than any other reason why you would be doing something. And so if there's if a person from a coaching perspective, if a person is not, if they have a goal and they know they actually want to achieve that goal, we have to look at, well, what's keeping you from doing that? And so we have to look at all those things. And also, one thing I do, and this is why self-mastery is so important, is there are 9 times out of 10, what's in our way, we're in our own way. And it's because we have blind spots and we have behavior that we have learned throughout our life that initially was protecting us, perhaps. And in our adult life, these thoughts and these behaviors no longer are keeping us safe and protecting us or holding us back. And um, so a focus on self-mastery, and from my perspective and the mindfulness, they all support being able to look at yourself and identify internally what's holding you back and making sure you're in alignment with yourself so that you can do what you need to do.
Yeah. So you realigned your career to what you really wanted to do, and now you're a wonderful, a great coach. We only have about 5 minutes left. Are there any additional questions out there? Please type them in the chat, or type them in the online.
I see someone put it's a red flag if you have to rush to get stuff done. And it's because if you're not managing your time properly, yeah, that's absolutely a red flag. Not managing, getting behind is a red flag that you're not managing your time.
Mhm.
That's so important. And again, mindfulness and self-mastery, and then doing the work, which I call wisdom work, which is really like making sure that you are in alignment with yourself. Um, if you're doing all of those things, you won't be wasting your time, essentially.
Yeah.
You'll be
Yeah.
managing your time appropriately.
hmm Yeah, no, and that it's about, and what happens with this group, the aspirers group sometimes is they go
Mhm.
into it not with their heart in it. They go into it because they heard that you can make a lot of money in cybersecurity. So this is what they want to do. And they get in there and they realize this is a lot of hard work. And if it's something that you actually want, you're going to have to put in that time. You're going to have to put in that effort. It's nothing is really going to come to you if you don't put in that effort and work. And so
Mhm.
it can be done, right? If you have a passion for it, like you said, if you really want to get into this space, if you put in the hard work, it can get accomplished. It's just not going to be instantaneous. It's not going to be taking a 6-week boot camp and then all of a sudden you have a six-figure job on the end of it. That's not the case. You have to put in that time and effort. And what happens with this group, especially this week with with my apprentices, they found out the hard way that when you get behind, there's a certain standard, right? And you have to meet that
Mhm.
standard. If you don't meet that standard, then you can't continue on. So yeah. I got one more question. We only got a couple minutes, but what advice would you give? What your advice about feeling? Okay, hold on. What is your advice about imposter syndrome? How to get confident enough not to feel imposter syndrome? Now, I'm going to let you answer that question. Then I'll give Miss Mary's answer. So you go ahead, Donald.
Um, in imposter syndrome, yeah, it's really about lacking confidence. When people lack confidence, it's because either they themselves don't believe that they can do it, or they're being told that by someone else. Um, it's, I think that so it's something that actually happens, but it's really when it happens, um, it's really about it's really like you're not seeing yourself in the right light. You're not seeing yourself through your own eyes. Really, you're seeing yourself through a lens that's not yours. And so the way to deal with imposter syndrome is to become aligned with yourself. I mean, I always come back to that, but it's really about getting yourself in alignment. Because when you're in alignment, it's you everything's in alignment as much as possible. It's your environment. It's being aware of what your skills, abilities, and your gifts are, and seeing how you're using them or not using them um, to do what's important to you and what you believe in and what is good for the world, even beyond, what you get from it, you know. And so that's what I would say. Imposter syndrome, it's you get to know yourself better, get into alignment with yourself. Um, that's all I
Okay,
got.
and that's all you got. And I only have 2 minutes left, and I think it's and the word or the phrase imposter syndrome is something that we need to stop with because it doesn't exist. In as much as the confidence that you're missing when you are looking at yourself externally and you're seeking external validation, that's when your confidence takes a hit. You have to be sure of who you are and what you are, and then actually be vulnerable in what you don't know. You can't know everything, right? And so therefore your confidence comes from your ability to work hard and doing your best. If you're working hard and doing your best, why do you feel like an imposter? And why are you allowing other people to impact how you feel about yourself? So in my world, and what I tell everybody is stop with that imposter syndrome question. It is that something that you have to do for yourself, right? And that's something that you, as Donald pointed out, you get aligned. And if you know you're on the path, then why are you feeling like you don't belong? Again, getting past that is to actually admit to yourself where you are and you're on the path of getting to where you want to go. And as long as you can read, as long as you can learn, as long as you got hard work, you can get over that. So that's right at the hour, and that's time. Donald, thank you so much for being with us today. It is very important for those of you out there. If you are here and came late, I think someone said they came late. This is out there on our YouTube channel. So you can definitely go out and view this once we close out if you wanted to hear these insights. Thank you so much, Donald. I always love talking to you. I always appreciate you. I think this is, as you know, is an important conversation to have as professionals at all levels to continue to drive towards the excellence that they want to achieve. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and ideas. And I will see you tomorrow with everyone else. Our last Aspire session for the year will be on November 22nd. Hopefully, you'll be able to join us. We'll be talking to another executive. I think, well, I know this person's at Adobe, so you want to come and you want to hear that. Again, like and subscribe to our channel. And otherwise, have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend. As Donald would say, take care of yourself. And we will see you guys again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.